machine makes a decision, not a human, not a driver, not a doctor, not an employee, an algorithm. And within seconds, someone is seriously injured. Maybe it's a self-driving car that misinterprets a situation. Maybe it's an AI-powered medical system that makes a dangerous recommendation. Or maybe it's a workplace robot that reacts in a way nobody expected. The injury is real. The damage is undeniable. But here's where things get complicated. Who do you sue when the thing that caused the harm isn't a person at all? As artificial intelligence becomes increasingly involved in decisions that affect our lives, courts, lawmakers, and attorneys are facing a question that personal injury law was never designed to answer, and the consequences could reshape liability for decades to come. For most of legal history, determining responsibility after a serious injury followed a familiar pattern. Someone made a mistake, someone acted carelessly, someone failed to take reasonable precautions. And when that negligence caused harm, the law provided a framework for determining accountability. But artificial intelligence is beginning to challenge that framework in ways few people imagined just a decade ago. Today, AI systems are making decisions in hospitals, vehicles, workplaces, financial institutions, and countless other environments where mistakes can have serious consequences. Most of the time, these systems operate without incident. But what happens when they don't? What happens when an AI system contributes to a catastrophic injury? At first glance, the answer may seem simple. Find whoever created the technology and hold them responsible. But in practice, these cases are far more complicated. That's because AI systems often involve multiple layers of decision-making and multiple parties. A company may design the software. Another company may manufacture the hardware. A third party may provide data used to train the system. An employer may choose how the technology is deployed. And a user may still have some level of control over the final outcome. When something goes wrong, identifying the responsible party becomes a legal puzzle. Consider a hypothetical example involving an AI-powered medical tool. A hospital uses software designed to help physicians identify serious medical conditions. The system analyzes patient data and provides recommendations intended to support medical decision-making. Now imagine the software fails to recognize a critical warning sign. A diagnosis is delayed. Treatment is postponed. The patient suffers severe harm. Who is responsible? The doctor who relied on the recommendation, the hospital that implemented the system, the software developer, or some combination of all three. These are exactly the kinds of questions attorneys and courts are increasingly being forced to confront, and the answers aren't always clear. One reason is that traditional personal injury law was developed around human behavior. Negligence generally focuses on whether a person or organization acted reasonably under the circumstances. AI complicates that analysis because the decision-making process can be difficult to understand, even for the people who created the technology. Some advanced AI systems operate in ways that are often described as black boxes. They generate outputs based on enormous amounts of data and complex calculations, but explaining precisely how a specific conclusion was reached can be challenging. That creates significant legal obstacles. If an injured victim claims an AI system caused harm, attorneys must often prove not only that the injury occurred, but also how the technology contributed to it. And that can require extensive technical investigations. Experts may analyze software architecture, training data, system limitations, testing procedures, safety protocols, tunnel company communications, and thousands of pages of technical documentation. In many cases, litigation begins looking less like a traditional injury lawsuit and more like a battle between teams of engineers, data scientists, and legal experts. Another major issue involves product liability. Product liability law allows injured individuals to seek compensation when defective products cause harm. Historically, these cases involved products such as defective vehicles, dangerous pharmaceuticals, faulty machinery, or unsafe consumer goods. but many legal scholars believe AI-related injuries may increasingly be evaluated through similar principles. If a company releases an AI system with known defects, inadequate safety measures, or foreseeable risks, plaintiffs may argue that the technology itself was unreasonably dangerous. That argument can potentially expose manufacturers and developers to significant legal liability, and the stakes are enormous because AI is no longer limited to simple tasks. These systems are increasingly being trusted with decisions involving transportation, healthcare, industrial operations, and public safety. The more responsibility society gives to artificial intelligence, the greater the consequences when those systems fail. And some of the most difficult legal questions emerge when the technology wasn't completely autonomous and humans were still involved somewhere in the process, because that's where the battle over responsibility becomes even more complicated. The most difficult AI injury cases rarely involve a situation where the technology acted completely alone. Instead, they often involve a combination of human decisions and machine decisions, and that's where determining liability becomes incredibly complex. Imagine an AI system issues a recommendation. A human reviews it. The recommendation is approved. An injury occurs. Who bears responsibility? The person who trusted the AI, the company that developed it, the organization that implemented it, or the executives who decided the technology was safe enough to use? In many cases, the answer may be all of the above. That's because the legal system generally looks beyond the technology itself and examines the people and organizations responsible for designing, deploying, maintaining, and overseeing it. After all, AI does not currently exist as a legal person. It cannot be sued, it cannot pay damages, it cannot appear in court. So, when injuries occur, attorneys typically focus on the humans and entities behind the system. Courts may examine whether developers adequately tested the technology before release. They may evaluate whether known risks were ignored. They may consider whether users received proper warnings and instructions. And they may analyze whether organizations relied on AI in situations where human oversight was still necessary. These questions become especially important because many AI systems are marketed as tools that improve accuracy, efficiency, or safety. If a company makes those claims and the technology fails in a foreseeable way, injured victims may argue that the risks should have been identified and addressed before deployment. At the same time, defendants often present a different argument. They may claim the technology functioned exactly as intended. They may argue that users ignored warnings, misused the system, or failed to exercise independent judgment. In other words, the legal battle often becomes a dispute over where human responsibility ends and technological responsibility begins. And that line is becoming harder to define every year. The challenge for lawmakers is equally significant. Many existing liability laws were written long before artificial intelligence became capable of making sophisticated decisions. As AI continues expanding into healthcare, transportation, manufacturing, and other high-risk industries, regulators and courts will likely face increasing pressure to clarify how responsibilities should be assigned when injuries occur. Some experts believe entirely new legal frameworks may eventually be needed. Others argue that existing negligence and product liability principles are flexible enough to handle these disputes. Regardless of which approach prevails, one thing is clear. AI is forcing the legal system to confront questions it has never faced before. Questions about accountability, questions about transparency, questions about trust. And perhaps most importantly, questions about who should bear the consequences when technology causes harm. Because while artificial intelligence may be capable of making decisions, society still expects someone to be responsible for those decisions when things go wrong. And until the law fully catches up with the technology, some of the most important courtroom battles of the future may revolve around a simple but incredibly difficult question. When an AI system causes a serious injury, who should ultimately be held accountable? Now, we'd like to hear your opinion. If an AI system makes a mistake that seriously injures someone, Who do you think should be responsible? The software company, the manufacturer, the organization using the technology, or the human overseeing it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. As AI becomes a bigger part of everyday life, these questions are becoming more important than ever. And if you enjoy exploring the legal challenges, personal injury cases, and emerging technologies that are reshaping our world, subscribe and turn on notifications. We break down the real legal questions behind tomorrow's biggest controversies, one case at a time.